Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Close Enough. So, this series has been interesting so far. It's very episodic, and each episode seems to start off pretty generically and then go into insanity. And I think regular show did the same thing. So I think maybe that's a trademark of JG Quintel. Or is it JD? Is it JD or JG? Either way. I think it's a trademark of the creator. Because, again, that seemed to be a thing in regular show, too. From what I remember. There's just all kinds of insanity, but there's also general good humor in this. Like, humor that is surprisingly really funny, even if it's about subjects that are not typically. Like the entire thing last time about Emily and Josh getting so fucking excited over doing taxes and just going around doing their errands and all because they had the time. It's like it's dumb. That there's nothing inherently funny about that. But at the same time, it's the presentation of it, as well as, to a degree, the performances of the voice cast, who kind of make it work. That it's presented in such an absurd way that kind of helps it be funny. And I also like, and I've talked about this before, I believe, that this series is a good adult series. So far, at least. I've complained about other adult animated series in the past that rely too heavily on shock humor and vulgarity and stuff like that, to the point where it's just like, you're trying too hard, and this is not funny. And a lot of times, a lot of those shows will also purposefully be offensive and just try to excuse it with the idea that, oh, but we're being offensive to everyone, so it's okay. And it's like, yeah, but you're still being offensive. That's still the problem. And it's like, you can do adult humor without being super offensive towards people. You can do adult humor without having to rely on vulgarity and just all that kind of stuff. Futurama showed how to do that. Futurama was clever as fuck with its humor. And this is another show that I think is doing it right. It's taking real life situations, throwing in some absurd scenarios and characters, and adding in language or adult circumstances or ideas. And there is stuff that is unquestionably adult in this. The last episode had a literal blood cult. And yeah, it showed some people getting murdered. And there was a lot of blood in regards to that. We see that characters are notably sexually active. and it doesn't shy away from things in that regard. And Emily even flashed her tits in the first episode. They were censored, of course, because they kind of have to be, unless you're like doing something on like online or I don't know, HBO. But it's like that's all adult, but it's not overly vulgar. It's not ridiculously just try hard. It feels more natural. And even the flashing part, it's like she, again, as I stated, I think last time, she was doing that because she was trying to get out of being trapped in this supernatural WandaVision bullshit that she was in. And so like that is how you handle this kind of shit. Have adult humor, have adult like situations and whatnot. But don't go the route of shit like Family Guy. Don't go the route of shit like Rick and Morty. And if you like those shows, fine. You're allowed to like those shows. I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not here to police what you like or don't like. I'm just stating my opinions. If you like something that I don't, that's perfectly fine. But I'm still going to talk about this stuff from my perspective. When an adult animated series ends up being too crass and too vulgar for clearly the sake of being crass and vulgar, it's like any kind of ideas or messages it's trying to get across just doesn't come across. And in the end, it just also brings down the entertainment and overall enjoyability of the series, in my opinion. I'm just not into those kind of things. They, in my opinion, are lazy and just misunderstanding what adult content should be. And for a series like with the entire overly vulgar, overly crass kind of thing, with there are exceptions to that, because some series, that's the point, and that's literally the joke, that things are overly crass and vulgar. Series like the Vivzy Pop series, Has Been Hotel, and Hell of a Boss, those are supposed to be like that. But even with all the vulgarity and crassness of those shows, it's also balanced out with genuinely likable characters, good story, heart, and it even makes it very clear that these characters are using this crassness usually to basically as a defense mechanism to hide their true feelings or excuse me, to hide their true feelings or intent. It serves a genuine purpose for the narrative of the series and of the characters. And you're not going to see that in Family Guy. You might see that in Rick and Morty. I'll give it that. You might see that in Rick and Morty, but you won't see it in Family Guy. But and even with that, it's like Rick and Morty still just, it's try hard with it. And honestly, the show is quite pretentious, in my opinion, too. And it's just, these kind of things clearly aren't for me. They don't appeal to me, pretty much at all. This is more what I like with my adult humor, with my adult content. Stuff like this, or like Futurama, or pretty much anything by Matt Groening, honestly. Futurama, Simpsons, Disenchantment, those kind of shows. Like I like those for adult content, um, because those are actually clever with how they handle things, and they're not just crass and vulgar for the sake of being crass and vulgar. But either way, right now, I mean, I've only seen 2 episodes, which technically means 4 segments. Um, I think it's too early to name a favorite character, but it's either Emily or Bridget. That much is pretty clear. Like, I like Josh and Bridget's ex, who I cannot remember. I can never remember his name. Um, I like Josh. He's cool and everything. Bridget's ex is weird as fuck and maybe a little unhinged, but I like them. They're fine. But Emily and Bridget seem to stand out a little more. Emily just seems really likable and kind of almost like she's supposed to be the more relatable character between even her and Josh, like the one you would connect with a little easier. And Bridget is just fucking fun. It's like they're two very different characters, clearly. Bridget is more of the wild party animal type character who loves to revel in being an adult, just being able to do adult things. While Emily is a lot more restrained and, trying to be a good parent, trying to be a functioning adult. And she's still weird, she's still ridiculous, but she's more restrained than Bridget is. But I like that they're still like best friends here because it's like, oh, these two are very close. They even live together as roommates, and it's like, yet they're so fucking different. And I like that because in real life that can happen. People can be different and live together. Now, not like sometimes if the differences are too heavy, it can cause problems. But I would not say Emily and Bridget are that far apart. They're very different from each other, but they're not like so different to where it would actually harm their relationship to live together like this and everything, or be friends just in general. It's not that bad. Um, but yeah, it's just it's a good, seemingly healthy relationship at this point. They seem to be just they seem to be really close with each other and probably have been for a while. I don't know. Maybe eventually we'll find out their past and see more about how they became friends in the first place. That would be fun. Um, Emily and Josh's daughter, Candace, I think. Um, she hasn't really been a major character yet. She's been kind of just like a supporting role at a couple of points, and a lot of times kind of helps move the plot forward. Um, I don't have any real thoughts on her yet, honestly. Um, and that's pretty much it for the core cast. Like, there's side characters that you see, recurring supporting cast, such as Candace's teacher. We've seen a couple times now, but they're just recurring side characters. Um, we'll just see. We'll just see how things go, and hopefully, this series continues to be pretty great. Now, I don't remember exactly how many episodes, but I know the seasons of this show are fairly short because it's a modern day streaming series, so those usually have pretty short run times. or episode counts. So I don't know exactly how long this is overall, but I'm enjoying it. I'm very much enjoying it. I think it's just fun. And I don't know if I mentioned this last time or if I was just thinking it. Um, but I almost kind of like this a little better than what I remember of regular show. I think the adult humor in it, the adult edge that this has, actually, I think that J.G. Quintel's humor works better for a series like this. For a more like family show, like regular show, even though there are clearly some more adult jokes in that, they do have to stay more family friendly and sneak those adult jokes in. And as such, it just never felt as good as it could be for me. Not that it was bad, and I didn't even get that far into it, all things considered. But yeah, this feels like it allows the humor to truly shine and really be what it was kind of always meant to be. That's how I view it, at least. I think this is good. Like, this is a good step forward, and what this kind of humor and snarkiness and just general just the way J.G. Quintel handles his characters in his shows, I just think it works better as an adult series. That's just my opinion, though. All of this is my opinion. We're going to get into this, though, and hope for the best. So, let's just do it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, yeah, this was an interesting set of episodes, and I apologize for the audio desync on the second one. It's just the file I got. There was nothing I could really do about it, unless I knew about it beforehand. If I had known about it beforehand, I could have probably edited it. But I don't even know if the sync was exactly the same all the way through. If it wasn't, then it still would have desynced it again at some point, even if I edited it, because I wasn't going to like watch through the entire thing to figure out how to sync it up. So either way, let's talk about both of the segments in this episode. So first was I'm just going to call it the Skate Dad segment, and basically it's about Josh wanting to do what his father never did for him and be a good father to his daughter. Josh's father seemed very, I wouldn't say like mean necessarily, but preoccupied maybe with his own things. He wasn't paying enough attention to Josh, and it seemed like he allowed Josh to pursue his interests, but just didn't actively take part in any of them. Josh wants to be different, so when Candace shows an interest in skateboarding, he wants to be a skate dad for her. He used to skateboard casually, and he wants to help her learn. And he ends up getting insanely jealous over this guy nicknamed the Goosh, who is basically really good at skateboarding. He gets jealous over the Goosh basically one-upping him. And then later, what he interprets to be the Goosh trying to take his place as skate dad. And it's basically just Josh having to learn to handle other people helping out as well. while also still trying to be a good father for his daughter. And in the end, they do help Candace learn, and yeah, there's some wacky shenanigans per usual. Skating down this giant hill, Josh getting a metal plate in his crotch because he gets his skateboard rammed right up it. It's like, Jesus. I was saying in the reaction, I kept getting interrupted while saying it. I grew up like playing the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games and Tony Hawk Underground and all. I watched like actual skateboarding like tournaments and everything. I was actually kind of big into it. I never did skateboarding personally. Like I never had a skateboard. I had some tech decks. That's about it. But I never had an actual skateboard or anything like that. Mostly because I always had like these issues with my gross motor skills where it's like I can't balance on things like that. I can't balance on a two-wheel bike either. So it's like I would not be able to like do anything with a skateboard. So yeah, it was actually one of the more tame segments of the series so far. It was pretty tame for all the other ones that we've had. Like, yeah, there were some wacky shenanigans, but not too much that was really too wild. Then we got the second one of these. And this one was extremely wild. It's basically like they said, let's put this pretty just chill episode and pair it up with the most insane one we've had yet. I mean, that is probably what they were doing. I could completely believe it. So we have our two main characters, Candace and Josh, dealing with different things in this episode. Josh is trying to take care of a list of errands and stuff, while Emily is trying to chill the fuck out. Emily's very stressed lately, and it's causing her to have some weird spasms. So she's trying to chill out. She's trying to relax a little bit and just take away all that stress. Josh is taking on all of the errands and all of the chores in her place. And yeah, shenanigans ensue. So you kind of have to touch on their separate shenanigans, well, separately. So I'm gonna talk about Emily's first because they're a little easier to discuss, I guess. Emily is hanging out with Bridget, just trying to chill. At first, they're just hanging out in the car or smoking some weed, but as things go along, Emily starts getting freaked out by stuff and starts getting paranoid, and then she starts freaking out even more. This causes her to go all around town trying out these different solutions, including yoga, including one of those rooms you can go to and break shit that is supposed to help you feel like let out your stress in a healthy way. I've always found those kind of interesting that someone thought to do that. Like you pay, you go into a room and you just can wreck everything in it, and it's like it's a stress reliever. It's for that purpose, and that I think that's pretty cool. It's a fun idea. But she's trying out all these different things. She's paranoid over the fact that she smoked weed, all kinds of stuff. And by the end, she manages to finally get rid of her stress by playing Josh's new video game, which seems to be a bit glitchy at the moment, which is basically just about climbing ladders, avoiding a giant Kevin Costner Waterworld head, all that kind of stuff. But let's talk about Josh's side, because his was definitely the more exciting side, I guess. So Josh is hanging out with his friend, who I still am blanking on the name of. I know it's such a just regular name too, and it's just I just can never remember it. But they're hanging out together. Candace is there, and they're trying to do all the chores, all the errands. And the last thing on the list is getting a ham, because they usually keep a earthquake ham, as they put it, basically emergency food, just in case they need it. So it's the last thing on the list. They're going to the store, but apparently there's a ham shortage in Southern California. And only one place in the entire area, the entire Southern California, is selling ham. And it's, yeah, they make it super blatant that it's stolen. And we find out later that this other place actually created the ham shortage by stealing the ham from everywhere else. And it's like, Jesus. Just so they could jack up the prices and, get more money. But then we have clowns suddenly appear in the store. Just some completely random menacing clowns. And Bridget's ex, I'm just going to call him that for now because I can't remember his name. I'll eventually remember his name. I don't know why, it just doesn't click with me. But he reveals that he made a bet with some clowns at the circus the other night. That they couldn't make a balloon animal giraffe. And for some reason, one of the clowns decides to take this personally, pulls down his pants, and turns his dick into a balloon animal giraffe. And it's like, I have multiple questions. And then it's like, he's like, oh no, that's a dog. But then it gets erect, and that makes the neck of the giraffe go up. And it's like, oh my God. What the fuck? It is so, like, stupidly clever. It is genuinely something I have never seen before and never want to see again. It's surprisingly unique and clever, and I hate it. I hate everything about it. But since the clowns won the bet, they are looking to collect, and so they're basically following him around. Meanwhile, they manage to escape the clowns for the time. They get to the place where the hams are, and they just plan to steal some hams. So they end up getting caught rather quickly. Candace is put into a small daycare area, which I swear the dude said it was Michelin star rated, which it's like, isn't that for food? I mean, like this is a food-based company. But for one, Michelin stars are for restaurants. And you're saying the daycare is Michelin? Are you eating children? Are you eating these children? Are you cooking and eating these children? What is? I have questions, and I'm not comfortable with any answer. But they managed to escape nearly being murdered by these people, thanks to Josh going with a limitless reference and unlocking the full potential of his brain, which basically just manages to allow him to see, like, the solution to getting out of things with what happens to be nearby. It's, like, not actually that impressive. But they obviously, they get their hams, they get Candace, they escape, but they are caught and are chased. So a car chase ensues, the clowns end up coming as well, and they're trapped. So Josh makes another bet. Well, Josh makes his first bet. But he basically puts their lives up at stake and says, you have to play us in this video game. And the idea basically is that if they do win, they're free to go. But if the clowns and or the meat people when they're dead. So they play the game, and that's when the kind of the stories intersect at the end here. Emily comes home. She is kind of thrust into playing as well. Um, and she ends up finding that it's actually a good de-stressor for her. She actually really enjoys it. And she ends up winning as well. So this helps relieve her stress, and it saves everyone else's ass. I like how the meat guy's like, can't we just kill them? And the clown's like, respect the bet. And it's like, okay. Yeah, this episode was absolutely bonkers. Well, that segment was, at least. Um, so it was fun. It was enjoyable. I'm just still wondering with the first segment though, why did it explode? This seems to almost be a recurring joke on this channel. And I swear that is not intentional. It's just like there's so many things I've watched where something has just inexplicably exploded for no reason and completely against all realism. Things that have exploded that make no sense to have exploded. Why did it explode? And it's just like, it seems to be a recurring thing, an unintentional recurring gag with my reactions on this channel. I don't understand why multiple shows are doing this. What is I don't understand the humor. I don't get it. It's almost, the only funny thing about it is the fact that it keeps happening and it keeps confusing me every time. That in and of itself, looking back on it, is kind of funny. But the actual like joke itself, I don't understand why that's supposed to be funny. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me, and it just makes no sense that they explode. Why did that explode? The skateboard hit a traffic cone. There's no, or I think a barrel, but still. Why did it explode? It would not have exploded. I just don't understand. I don't understand why I'm seeing it in multiple things I've been reacting to. But either way, yeah, I had fun with this. Um, there was also a joke in there as well from Emily. Like, she's like stressed out and like just rambling, and she's like talking about. She mentions like something about like something about, I think, working, and then she's basically because feminism, and I I wish I remembered exactly how it was said and exactly what was said, because it was kind of funny in the moment. Um, but yeah, not remembering it and being shit at retelling things, not exactly helping explain how it was funny. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it, and it's kind of fun at the same time seeing certain aspects of things in this series. These characters like are unabashedly drug users, for example. That's seen in both of these. Now, obviously, I have nothing against marijuana use or anything. Like I said in the reaction, I've smoked marijuana. It doesn't really do much for me, so I don't like do it often or anything. I just had hemp wine this past weekend, though that's not marijuana, I know, but still. Um, but there are certain drugs, obviously, I would have a problem with, and it's like, yeah, some of the stuff that they had in that briefcase in the first segment, it's like, yeah. Because it's like, obviously, there's some hard drugs that are just like, okay, these just, there's no way to make these acceptable. Stuff like, obviously, like meth and whatnot. there's just, yeah, no. Certain things it's like you can get away with accepting. Marijuana is definitely one of those. There's not really anything wrong with marijuana. But that, no. Some of the stuff they had. So it's like, but it's really interesting and to see these characters just embrace this kind of stuff so easily. More so Bridget and her ex, like they seem to be more heavy into it than Josh and Emily, which makes sense because they're, single and more free, and Josh and Emily are parents and they have responsibilities to deal with. So it makes sense. Also, I just like that this show is kind of unabashed about sexuality in a way and everything too. And what I mean by that is, like, this episode didn't really feature much with it, but like with Bridget, like she has sex, like she does, and it's made very clear that she has probably had a lot of partners in that regard. It doesn't hide that fact. It doesn't really pretend otherwise. It's kind of unabashed about it. And it doesn't treat it as a bad thing either. It just treats it as just a thing. Just normal. And I kind of like that. That it doesn't stigmatize Bridget being sexually active. I do very much kind of enjoy that. And again, I'm not expecting like huge amounts of like very blatant sexual activity to be shown or anything. No. But I just like that they're expressing that can just be normal. Because that's something that our society does even still have a problem with. Just accepting the normalization of people of age being sexually active. And completely harmlessly so. So yeah. But it was an enjoyable episode, nonetheless. No matter what. And I want to hear your thoughts. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Close Enough? Either of the segments. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.